Creative process has basically two elements. First is the therapist relation with the client's personal integrity. Every person enters therapy with a unique personal integrity. This means that he has developed over a span of many years models of moving in the world which have structural and functional unity for him. It includes his symptoms, complaints, and behaviors. Establishing contact with this integrity involves using the therapist's study of what is it like to be a person like this. The second element in the creative process is revolutionary molding. There, the therapist identifies with that part of the client which is waiting for permission to experiment in a new way. The client is constantly experiencing the existential dilemma of being torn between the painful comfort of his existing integrity and his need to change. The therapist helps the client to be the experimenter, the teacher, the active modifier, while maintaining an attitude of understanding and respect for his client's existing stance. In this process of sharing and exploration of the client's inner life, that his original personal structure begins to change. Joseph Zinker says, "Look at the person the way you would look at sunset or at mountains. You wouldn't say, this sunset should be more purple, or these mountains should be taller in the center. You would simply gaze with wonder, and so it is with another person." One cannot push the river to make art, and so it is with therapy. The client must be taken through a graded series of experiences before he is ready to go further and further to the deepest layers of his personality. It takes time to be reborn. Two phenomena may occur within the same person at the same time. For example, he may experience a great deal of liveliness in his upper chest, but may feel blocked in his pelvis, or the person may feel a great deal of fluidity in his pelvis and a mask-like frozen face. The therapist's job is to locate, mobilize, and modify this energy in the service of a new, more adaptive behavior. If energy is nowhere to be located in a person, then it can be pumped up. Image or feeling is transformed into walking, running, vocalization, screaming, jumping, arching the back, bending, pounding pillows, or some of the classic stress positions developed by Alexander Lowen, in which the individual becomes aware of the amount of energy vibrating within his body. A person needs juice to make creations, and if it's not in the feeling or language, then it is surely somewhere in his body. The recovery of body energy feeds the person's spirit and puts content of his language. Resistance, stability versus change. All movement engenders resistance. Since experience is in a constant flux, it too takes place against an inner resistance. Resistance is a term that connotes an external observation of my state of reluctance. A casual reluctance to change may be an inner crisis for me, a fight for my life. This is the phenomenological definition of resistance. A person can learn to block his own need satisfaction. This blocking can occur at every level of the assimilating process, like muscles, respiration. Blocking also occurs in the form of ruminations, obsessions, and repetitious stereotype thoughts. This is a form of fixation that blocks the continuous development of the organism. All pathology may be understood as an extensive, chronic interruption of the process by which the person moves to fulfill his full range of needs. Crippled behavior has its own special characteristics, and what appears sick to us is a state of accommodation to the blockage in the other person. All human processes include polar forces. A fluid movement involves intricate cooperation of opposing muscle groups. If it were not so, a person would become gelatinous or frozen and incapable of highly differentiated activity. One of the central polarities of our existence is that of stability versus change, the need to know versus the fear of knowing. Much of our energy is used up in the tension between these two forces, and any therapy which intends to modify behavior must deal with this polar phenomena as being a foreground of behavior. All parts and forces in the person are integrally connected, and each minute aspect leads us toward a fuller sense of the whole person. Joseph Zinker says that the creative therapist is a lover of nature. He feasts himself on everything around him, like a sensitive novelist. He should gaze at the client rather than stare at him. A naturalistic outlook gives one freedom to take in the person's experience without evaluating or judging him. In this context, the therapist experiences the symptoms the client tells about as ways in which he takes care of himself in his world. One must have patience.